What if Batman was French, paralyzed, and instead of fighting crime, he just hired a guy from the projects to show him how to use a baby monitor? The Fast, the Furious, and the Employment Line. The story kicks off in Paris with Driss, who is driving his boss Philippe like he's trying to audition for a Grand Theft Auto live-action remake. He's weaving through traffic and ignoring signs because apparently traffic laws are just suggestions when you have a French accent. Naturally, the cops show up. Driss, being the pinnacle of professional integrity, bets €100 he can lose them. When that fails, because shocker, cops have engines too, he pivots to a €200 bet that he can get an escort. He pulls over and starts a performance that would make Meryl Streep weep, claiming Philippe is having a medical emergency. Philippe, who clearly hasn't had this much fun since his spine worked, joins in by faking a seizure. The cops, proving that gullible is the same word in every language, actually escort them to the hospital. Driss wins the bet, blasts some earth, wind and fire, because nothing says medical emergency like disco, and they peel out before the doctors can realize Philippe is just vibing. The world's worst job interview. We flash back to how this bromance began. Philippe is rich, bored, and paralyzed from the neck down, so he's interviewing caretakers. The candidates are all boring, qualified losers with experience. Then Driss storms in. He doesn't want a job. He wants a signature on his unemployment forms so he can go back to doing absolutely nothing. He's rude. He hits on the assistant Magalie, who is way out of his league, by the way, and he generally treats the mansion like a DMV. Philippe, who is so rich that rudeness feels like authenticity to him, finds this hilarious. He tells Driss to come back the next day. Driss goes back to his tiny apartment where his 12,000 siblings are annoying him. He notices his brother Adama getting out of a suspicious car, which in movie language means this kid is definitely selling something that isn't Girl Scout cookies. Driss then gifts his mum a stolen Fabergé egg, because nothing says I'm a reformed son like high-end Russian jewelry acquired via 5-finger discount. His mom, having functioning brain cells, kicks him out. The 1 month to not kill him challenge. Driss goes back for his papers and gets the grand tour from Yvonne, the housekeeper. He sees a private bathroom with a bathtub and suddenly decides that wiping a millionaire's backside might be worth it if it means he doesn't have to share a shower with 6 toddlers. Philippe offers him a 1-month trial, betting he won't last 2 weeks. The training is, let's call it intimate. Driss has to learn to stimulate Philippe's legs, change his clothes, and handle the bathroom logistics. Driss complains the whole time, which I'm sure is exactly what you want to hear from the person currently handling your catheter. Parenting advice from a thief. Later, Driss meets Philippe's daughter, Elisa, and her boyfriend Bastien. They want a place to make out, but Driss kicks them out because he doesn't share his beer. A true hero of the people. Driss starts getting the hang of things, though he keeps trying to hand the phone to a man who can't move his arms. Classic. He also discovers Philippe has a pen pal named Eleanor. They've been writing flowery poetic letters for 6 months. Driss, who has the romantic depth of a Twitter bot, thinks this is the stupidest thing he's ever heard. He finds an escort flyer and decides that's a much more practical file to keep for Philippe. The art of the threat. Driss refuses to put Philippe in a wheelchair-accessible van because he's not cargo, so they take the fancy sports car instead. When a neighbour blocks their driveway, Driss handles it the professional way by physically threatening the man until he moves. Philippe is impressed. Honestly, if my healthcare provider started bench pressing my neighbours, I'd be impressed too. They go to a museum where Philippe wants to buy a painting that looks like a red blotch. Driss points out it's a scam, but Philippe buys it anyway, because when you're that rich, you're legally required to lose money on art. Meanwhile, Philippe's family warns him that Driss has a criminal record. Philippe doesn't care because Driss doesn't pity him. Also, Driss is the only one willing to make fun of him to his face, which is apparently a luxury service. Oh, don't worry, the judgment is peaking. We've reached the rich people are weird and poor people are crafty phase of our little French cinematic journey. Poetry, pot, and the world's most expensive Rorschach test. While Driss is busy failing to seduce Magalie for the 400th time, he finds out Philippe is essentially running a 19th century Tinder account. He's been writing epistolary letters to a woman named Eleanor for 6 months. 6 months. In the time it took Philippe to describe the azure depths of his soul, Driss could have swipe-righted half of Paris. Yvonne turns off the baby monitor so they can gossip like schoolgirls, and we find out Philippe has never even seen a JPEG of this woman. The midnight stroll of despair. One night Philippe has a breathing attack. Driss, showing a rare moment of actual competency, doesn't just call a priest. He wipes Philippe's face and takes him out for a 4 a.m. stroll by the Seine. Philippe gets all philosophical, complaining about phantom pain and how he can't feel anything below his chin except his ears. Apparently, his ears are now his sensitive zones. Note to self, if a millionaire asks for an ear massage, run. To deal with the pain, Driss shares a joint with Philippe, because nothing cures a traumatic spinal injury like getting sky high with your caretaker in a public park. They hit up a restaurant where Philippe drops the dead wife backstory. It's tragic, sure, but he also mentions he crashed his paraglider because he loved extreme sports. Sir, you are a billionaire. Just buy a yacht like a normal person. He then drops the bombshell. Driss passed the 1-month trial. His reward? Finding the Fabergé egg he stole. Philippe knew the whole time. He's not mad, just disappointed. The ultimate rich person power move. The Cyrano de Bergerac of the projects. Driss goes back to the real world to check on Adama, who is currently failing at being a criminal. He got caught with 30 grams, rookie numbers. Driss then heads back to the mansion to fix Philippe's love life. He finds Philippe dictating purple prose to Eleanor that sounds like a Hallmark card written by a Victorian ghost. Driss loses his mind, grabs the phone, and forces Philippe to actually speak to the woman. Groundbreaking stuff, really. Then comes the opera. Driss spends the entire performance laughing at a guy dressed as a tree singing in German. Honestly, valid. Opera is weird. The next day, Driss convinces Philippe to send a photo to Eleanor. Philippe, being insecure, tries to send a pre-accident photo. Driss, the king of discipline, scolds him and then complains about Philippe's daughter, Elisa, being a brat. Pot, meet kettle. The birthday party from hell. It's Philippe's birthday. The one day a year his greedy relatives show up to make sure he hasn't died and left his money to a cat sanctuary. It's a stiff, boring affair with a classical chamber orchestra. Driss, bored out of his skull, decides to liven things up. He plays Boogie Wonderland and starts dancing, because every high society French gala needs a guy from the projects doing the hustle to earth, wind and fire. Surprisingly, the fossils at the party love it. Meanwhile, Driss finds Elisa crying because her boyfriend Bastien called her a tart. Driss handles this with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. He threatens the boy until he agrees to bring Elisa croissants every morning and fix his hair. Honestly, croissant extortion is a service I'd pay for. The Great Painting Scam. Remember that red blotch painting? Philippe manages to sell Driss's own abstract art, which is basically just accidental splatters, to a relative for 11,000 euros. 11k for a painting by a guy who thought the Louvre was a brand of bottled water. Capitalism is truly a fever dream. Everything seems great until Eleanor finally sends a photo. She's pretty. They agree to meet at a restaurant. Driss and Yvonne spend 3 hours dressing Philippe up like he's going to the prom. But Philippe gets cold feet. He's so terrified she'll reject the wheelchair that he leaves the restaurant 1 minute before she arrives. He basically ghosted her in 1.1 scale. To cope, he makes Driss fly him to the mountains in a private jet to go paragliding. Because nothing screams I'm over my trauma like doing the exact thing that paralyzed you in the first place. Oh, we've reached the emotional growth phase of the movie, which is usually just code for everyone cries and someone grows a questionable beard. Let's bring this home. The midlife crisis and the cousin reveal. After their little paragliding trip, because apparently gravity hasn't taught Philippe enough lessons yet, they return home to find Adama lurking around like a background extra in a gritty crime drama. Driss finally gets the kid to admit he's in over his head with some suspicious types. Then comes the big who am I guys moment. Driss drops the bombshell. His parents aren't his parents. They're his aunt and uncle who imported him from Senegal because they couldn't have kids. His name isn't even Driss, it's Bakari. He basically got rebranded like a failing tech startup. Philippe, in a rare moment of actual parenting, realizes that Driss can't spend his entire life changing a millionaire's diapers while his own family is falling apart. He fires him. It's the if you love something, set it free trope, but with more expensive healthcare involved. The great post-breakup depression. Driss leaves, but not before one last failed pass at Magalie. She finally introduces him to Fred. Surprise! Fred is a woman. Magalie was never hard to get. She was just playing for a completely different team. Driss takes the L with some dignity and heads back to the projects. Meanwhile, Philippe's life turns into a depressing indie movie. He hires a new caretaker who is qualified, professional, and stuffy. Basically a human beige wall. Philippe hates him. He stops eating, grows a beard that makes him look like a shipwrecked philosopher, and refuses to let anyone touch his phantom pains. He's essentially ghosting life because he misses his favourite criminal turned nurse. The return of the king of speeding. Yvonne, tired of Philippe's I'm so sad routine, makes the bat signal call to Driss. We finally catch up to the beginning of the movie. The high-speed chase, the fake seizure, and the police escort. Driss takes Philippe to the coast because, as every movie tells us, looking at the ocean solves 100% of your psychological problems. Driss decides Philippe's castaway beard has to go. He gives him a shave, probably nicking him a few times for old time's sake, and takes him to a fancy restaurant for lunch. But Driss isn't staying. He's finally playing matchmaker. He leaves a stolen Fabergé egg on the table, the ultimate I'm sorry I robbed you gesture, and walks out. The grand finale, blind date edition. Philippe is sitting there, panicking because his only friend just ditched him with the check when Eleanor walks in. She's real, she's pretty, and she doesn't care that he's in a wheelchair. It's a miracle. Or, she just read the script. The movie ends with the classic, where are they now text crawl. The real Philippe moved to Morocco, got remarried, and had kids. The real Driss, Abdel, started his own business and got married too. They're still best friends to this day, proving that all you need for a lifelong bond is a stolen egg, some earth, wind and fire, and a complete disregard for traffic safety. And that's the script. A heartwarming tale of how money can buy you a friend, and how a friend can buy you, well, a better taste in music.